everyone, welcome to Bookshelf Chronicles with Auntie Kadian, and we are continuing our journey into this book of Building a Home Full of Grace, written by John and Susan Yates and their family. Last time we looked at the introduction where we read and we spoke about grace says, I am with you for the long haul. Even though we will repeatedly let each other down, our love is not based on each other's performance. We do not give up on each other. Instead, we keep on learning together. We forgive. We give each other the benefit of the doubt, and we look to God to help us grow. Powerful right there. And I am reading from this book, sharing my commentary, sharing my 2 cents, just the same. And today we will be going into chapter 2, 3 essential commitments for building the Christian home. But before we go to chapter 2, let's back up a little on chapter 1. What is a Christian family? And we discussed last time that a Christian family is one where 2 or 3 are gathered. Not just that, a Christian family is one that puts God first. We're not perfect, so of course we're gonna make mistakes. But at the end of the day, we should not be afraid or terrified, for the Lord our God goes with us, and he will never leave nor forsake us. And we can always reference Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 6. All right, so ladies and gents, boys and girls, let's get straight into chapter 2. 3 essential commitments for building the Christian home. And this chapter was written by John and his wife, Suzanne. And I'm reading. If there were a basic curriculum for the Christian family, 3 foundational commitments would compose home building basics. 1, commitment to the covenant. 2, commitment to the communication. And 3, commitment to cultivation. Commitment to the covenant. Let's look at that. At the heart of the Christian family is the marriage covenant. In every Christian wedding, the participants are reminded that God established the bond and covenant of marriage at creation. A covenant is a sacred, permanent commitment between 2 people and before God. Jesus says of the marriage covenant, what God has joined together, let man not separate. Mark 10, verse 9. Covenant is at the very heart of our Christian concept of family. God calls us into covenant with himself through Christ. He never stops loving us or giving to us. He says, in effect, I love you with an everlasting love. Never, no, never will I forsake you. And we can reference Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 6, Jeremiah 31, verse 3, Hebrews 13, verse 5. Now it continues to say, this is the example we are to follow in marriage. Our commitment to our mate is also to be very strong and also permanent, because it's a commitment we have taken. And it's also a commitment we have taken when we decide to have children. Powerful words, powerful words. That's something I will say. I'll continue to read. Christian marriage is based on the conviction that we are committed to one another in sickness or in health, in adversity or advantage, in good times or in bad, and in poverty or in riches. The commitment a husband and wife makes to the covenant of marriage becomes a strong, protective fortress surrounding the married couple and their children. This sacred vow made before God and our Christian friends in our church family exerts a kindly pressure on us to be decent and gentle and persevering in our marriage. It keeps us from pulling too far away from one another. Now, I'm just going to say this point blank. You guys may want to knock me for it, but I have always had an issue with that vow, that marriage vow that says, in sickness and in health till death do us part. And maybe my challenge with that is because of what I grew up and have seen. Because since the 28th century, numerous studies concluded that when parents separate and the homes divide, the destruction impact on the children is felt for many, many years. Anger, resentment, fear, and insecurity often result. And that is so true. So I don't really agree with that because I believe times have evolved. And I personally don't think a lot of people stick in marriage when times get rough. Yes, it was God's will, and that's what God destined for us. But man's heart, and when I say man in this case, don't come for me. I'm making reference to man and woman. Their hearts are hardened. It's not the same as in the 1700s, the 1600s. It's not the same. It's so different. Because when someone has lost their job, I've seen so many times the other party is like, I can't take it, I can't, and they just move on with their life, right? And somebody gets sick, and then the other person decides that, listen, you're of no use to me, and then it's so heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, and it makes me wonder what then is the purpose of saying you're gonna get married to someone if they're not sticking it with you through to the end. And again, this is just my own personal, my reflections, but as I shared with you guys, this book has definitely allowed me to reflect, rethink some of the things I once thought and, change my mind on. And it also allows me to internalize to know that there is more to this life than what the eyes can see, than what the ears can hear, or what the thoughts of me can fathom. So, contrary to all the craziness happening in the world, I believe strongly in marriage. I believe that we're able to build a home full of grace, but it takes work and it requires two to tango. It requires two of us willing to work. Maybe later on in life, God will reveal something on my heart and I'll have a different perspective on that vow. But I've always said if I'm supposed to get married, I'd write my own vows. I wouldn't take those vows. Too many people have taken them and it means nothing to them. It's just words repeating. When the marriage counselor or the pastor say, repeat after me, I think that's really, but anyways, my 2 cents. Let's get back into the book. So, challenges to the covenant. There are at least two major challenges to this commitment we make to the marriage covenant. Challenge number one. So, challenge number one, it just isn't working. I give up. A very serious challenge to the covenant of marriage arises when a couple comes to the point where their marriage relationship has deteriorated and they conclude, we have failed. So commonplace is that they're gonna say, listen, let's just call it quits. We have failed. Let's call it quits. We're not gonna work on this. They're like, oh, let's just agree to call it a day. Right? John and Susan go on to say, so commonplace is this conclusion that many couples now enter into marriage not having committed themselves to the covenant of marriage, but having signed a prenuptial contract. Contained in the contract are all the details describing how, if the marriage does not work, they will handle the dissolution of their relationship. Now, I'm not against prenuptial agreements, to be honest with you. I believe maybe it's my own perception, maybe it's my own biased reflection on some stuff as I look at society, why I would have taken this stance, but to each their own. Um, I also believe that because women and men's hearts have hardened, some folks aren't necessarily getting married for marriage. They're getting married for the glam. So they're in love with the idea of a wedding. They're in love with the idea of the good times, not realizing that rough times will come. But through it all, we can weather any storm because we're gonna give each other grace. We're gonna have God in the midst of it all. So I think that's very important. Anyways, challenge number 2, the demands and temptations of busy careers. Ooh, this one hits hard for me. Anyways, a second challenge to the marriage covenant is the idea that our careers must come first, although we would never put it quite so grassly. Still, many married couples believe that their own personal growth and development must take precedence over their marriage commitment. Many have careers that are demanding and gratifying. Many hold responsible positions that take most of their time. Their work is exhausting and can drain from them the ability or the will to give to their mates and children what they need to have a happy home. The home makes huge demands on us as well, and we don't always feel as appreciated as we wish at home compared to how we feel on the job. A husband, for instance, who is obsessed with his job and works very long hours, arrives home late only to find that his wife is frustrated because he hasn't taken care of this or that in the home. Or she's feeling hurt because he didn't let her know he was going to be home late. She's feeling unappreciated and exhausted from being with the children, perhaps after having a full and challenging day at work herself. Often at home, we're confronted with our own failures to be the kind of husband and father or wife and mother we need to be. Few relish going home to that sort of environment and therefore unconsciously work longer hours and spend less time at home. They develop their identity and seek their reward in their careers. The long-term result of such a process is not hard to imagine. It leads to family breakdown. Ladies and gents, boys and girls, when I tell you that this book hits my core, I mean this book hits my core. Not in a bad way at all, but it drives home some points, some things that makes me really reflect and internalize and be like, Katie Ann, you gotta think differently because I am very guilty of the demands of temptations of a busy schedule, a busy career. I am so guilty. But guess what? I'm not perfect and I'm a work in progress. So I have to give myself grace and also ask for grace from others because we're human beings and life happens, things happen. Sometimes it takes us a little longer to learn how to navigate some things in our life, so we have to be mindful of that just the same because this one really, really hits home. It does. Anyways, let's look at rewards of the covenant, right? So if you're committed to the marriage covenant, you will be willing to go through whatever it takes to make your marriage work. Hmm, that is true. Martin Luther described marriage as a school for character. Nothing reveals the cracks or strengths in one's character more quickly than the strains of married life. But with the exception of the parent-child relationship, no other relationship has such potential to mature us. And that is so true. I always tell people the only thing I feel as if I struggle with so bad is parenthood because there is no manual. I have attended so many parenting classes, read so many books. Trust me, when I decided personally to just embrace parenthood and learn as I go along without any of these manuals, I felt better. And I just decided to rely on God, and He would help me to navigate. No, had I been married, I would have done the same thing too, because there is no one size fits all. There is no full-fledged book that can tell you behave like this and your marriage will last. There is nothing. You just have to trust God. And in the midst of you trusting God, ladies and gents, boys and girls, you will learn things about yourself that you never even knew existed. It will build your character. It will teach you patience. Trust me, it will. So, the book continues, the covenant builds security. It forces us to deal with our problems, to work through them and get things straight. It allows for mistakes and failures that most certainly will come in the marriage, sorry. But it provides room for us to keep on growing and working our way through these mistakes. No matter what may threaten the marriage, neither husband or wife will allow it to sabotage their relationship. That's true. Parental commitment to the marriage covenant also provides security for children and helps them to know that even though there may be times when the parents are upset with one another, they are bound together permanently. Children desperately need to know this about their parents. And that is so true because sometimes these children are struggling and they think, oh my God, mommy don't love daddy anymore. And then, the challenges start to arise. So we have to be extremely mindful of these things as we progress in life. Trust me, it's very important. So number two, we're looking at commitment to communication. So we were just looking at commitment to the covenant. All right, so number two, it's commitment to communication. We have to communicate, ladies and gents. It's so important. So the second commitment that is foundational to healthy home life is good communication within the home. Staying in touch with one another, keeping close. Now, some folks may say, yeah, it's so redundant, but it is so important, ladies and gents. Because a marriage is like a house. If we do not invest a certain amount of time in the repair of our houses week in and week out, eventually they will fall down around us in disrepair, sorry. The roof leaks gradually become worse. The sidings, they will fade. Termites will, eat out the foundation and the house becomes weaker and weaker. So you have to remember, ladies and gents, to be committed to communicate. You have to communicate and don't expect the person to be able to read what's in your mind. I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, thinking, oh, I was gonna say this. You didn't say it, brother. You didn't say it, sister. So how do you think I am supposed to know what you were going to say? And I definitely can't read your mind. I don't know what's in your thoughts. So express yourself. So ladies and gents, boys and girls, be willing to express how you're feeling so the other person can know. And when you express yourselves, ladies and gents, boys and girls, it also set the stage for other family members to be willing to do just that. So we have to be mindful of that, all right? So our third aspects of essential commitments for us to build a Christian home, it's going to be commitment to cultivate a vision for your home. The third area of commitment fundamental to strong families is cultivating a vision for what you want for your family to be like. Like, what do you desire for your family to have? How do you vision your children growing up? What life would you want them to have at age 5, 10, 15, 20? You have to think about those things. Because as you begin to have children, you will realize that your children are quite different in terms of their gifts and personalities. The gifts, their interests, and abilities God gives us will help us to think carefully about how we want to build our family life and how we are going to help and encourage family members to grow and develop further. We really have to think about that. We do. Now, parents will need to determine what character traits they want to cultivate in their family and then plan ways to develop them. One of the key things I want to say to folks is you want to cultivate a home, not just of grace like that, but a home that is built on patience, being able to trust each other, being very transparent. Because what you're instilling in your home, ladies and gents, will also, your children will instill in their children and the generations to come. So you want it to be very wholesome, right? So let me continue reading. For example, to cultivate service to others, you will have to look for ways to direct your children in serving others and set an example so they can see the importance of this practice. When you put careful thought into cultivating a vision for your family, the result will be renewed enthusiasm for your family and a sense of mission and hope. Commitment to your marriage covenant, to communication within your home, and to cultivating a vision for your family early on in your married life will provide you with an essential foundation for a strong family. Now, ladies and gents, remember, for you to have all of this, it is very important. I don't want to even stress it, but you have to have God at the center, at the forefront of everything that you do. Matthew 6, verse 33 says, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. That's something my mom always preached to me. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all else will be added unto you. And I have proven that that is so true, because when you seek God, when you put him at the forefront of what you do, you get a sense of calm, a sense of peace that you never knew before. I always say you have to know God for yourself. Know God for yourself. Because at the end of the day, ladies and gents, boys and girls, we ought to look towards building a home full of grace. Right? We just looked at 3 essential commitments for building the Christian home. And next time I see you guys, we'll be looking at establishing a strong marriage by John and Susan. And this is quite interesting, I will say. Like, listen, I don't know about you, but I know for myself personally, this book does have me on my toes. This book does send me on a reflective mode. I have to further internalize. Look at how I can change my perspective, because my perspective on some things have been turned by how society has looked at things. Listen, I'm not alone here. I know I'm not. I know we're all faced with different challenges, but I want to encourage you. You are not alone. God is never going to leave nor forsake you. Just remember to give yourself grace, just as though you're extending it to others. Pat yourself on the shoulder and remind yourself you have come a far way. With God in the vessel, you can weather any storm. I will see you guys very soon for chapter 3. Thank you for listening to Bookshelf Chronicles with Auntie Katie, and as we continue our journey into this book, Building a Home Full of Grace, written by John and Susan Yates and their family. All the commentaries, all the craziness I share from my personal life. Anyway, see you guys soon. Take care. Please remember to subscribe and hit that notification bell. See you guys. Bye.